As we already know, the uninhabited continent of Antarctica has a lot in the bag for us. Aside from its extremely cold temperature, some mysterious discoveries made there will surely send chills down your spine. Join us as we take you through 15 terrifying things discovered in Antarctica that changed everything. Number 15. Antarctica's Blood Falls. Upon hearing its name, one would think the Blood Falls located in McMurdo Dry Valley is a gory waterfall made of blood. This, thankfully though, is not true. The fall was discovered in 1911 when a team of scientists noticed a cliff of ice had been stained by a river with a dark red color. They concluded that the red algae around it could be a possible cause of the discoloring of the water. However, there was no proof to support the claim. This mystery would remain unsolved for the next 10 decades. But now we know the true origin of Blood Falls, no small thanks to research conducted by the University of Alaska Fairbanks. The deep red coloring results from oxidized iron mixing with the brine salt water. It is the same process that gives rusted iron a dark red color. In other words, when iron that bears salt water comes into contact with oxygen, the iron oxidizes and turns red. Scientists uncovered the true origin of the falls when they scanned the layers of ice from which the river pours using radio echo sounding. Imaging from underneath the glacier revealed a complex network of subglacial rivers and a subglacial lake filled with brine that is rich in iron. Rather than freeze, the brine remains liquid and flows with the presence of a high concentration of salt. Unlike pure water, since salt water has a lower freezing point, it releases heat as it freezes, thus melting the ice to enable the rivers to flow. And also the high pressure at the base of the glacier contribute to reducing the temperature at which water freezes. Number 14. Singing ice. You might not hear it sing aloud because the sound it makes is not audible to human ears, but the fact is that the ice covering Antarctica actually sings. The discovery of the singing ice came by accident. Researchers were monitoring other aspects of ice behavior after installing 34 seismic sensors on the Ross Ice Shelf between 2014 and 2017. After reviewing the readings, they discovered that the topmost snow layer was constantly vibrating, especially when winds whipped over the ice's uneven surface, producing a hum at a frequency of about 5 Hz. Julianne Chaput, lead study author and a geophysicist and mathematician at Colorado State University in Fort Collins, describes the sound as similar to blowing a flute. Douglas Mikhail, a glaciologist at the University of Chicago, offered a more poetic description of the humming sound. In his description, he said the sound could be compared to the buzz produced by thousands of cicada bugs when they overrun the tree canopy and grasses in late summer. Also, the study discovered that the pitch of the hum changes under certain conditions. One such condition is the alteration of the shape of the snow dunes after powerful storms. The other change occurred after a warming event in January 2016. With this discovery, scientists can now track shifts in surface ice, both remotely and in real time. Therefore, they will be able to give a clearer picture of ice shelf stability and predict when the shelf may become vulnerable to collapse. Number 13. A rectangular iceberg. In 2018, NASA made a shocking revelation of a monolithic slab of ice captured by its Icebridge aircraft. The slab of ice was captured floating just off the Larsen C ice shelf. It also appears in a nearly perfect rectangular form. NASA took the image of the rectangular iceberg while on a mission to image Earth's polar regions to understand the changes in ice thickness, location, accumulation, and so forth in recent years. This particular iceberg is not the usual angular iceberg whose small tips are only visible. Rather, it is an entirely different type of iceberg that has been described as a tabular iceberg. Tabular icebergs have flat plateau tops and nearly vertical sides. They typically break off of ice shelves. Tabular icebergs are known to be extremely large, although this particular iceberg is yet to be measured. The largest recorded iceberg in the world is Iceberg B15, which sits 183 miles long and 23 miles wide. It was carved off the Ross Ice Shelf in 2000. This rectangular iceberg from the Larsen C ice shelf is estimated to be about 130 feet tall. It contains enough tons of ice that it could fill every swimming pool in California over and over if it melted. The Larsen C is a very large ice shelf with enough time to spread out and become perfectly flat. The moment an iceberg breaks off a shelf, it takes a large flat rectangular shape. As the iceberg carves, it may be smooth and flat underneath, however, this could change with ocean currents. Number 12. Jade green icebergs. Usually icebergs are white or blue, however, when you see jade and emerald green icebergs, you will confirm that they are a rarity. These stunning jade green icebergs have remained a mystery to scientists for decades. However, recent discoveries have shown scientists gradually cracking open the secrets of the greenness of some of these icebergs. After carrying out a series of tests on ice samples collected from underneath the Amory ice shelf, it was discovered that iron oxides in seawater could be a likely reason for the rare type of icebergs. According to Dr. Mark Curran, Australian Antarctic Division glaciologist, the unique color of the icebergs is due to the yellow-tinted iron oxide in seawater combining with the crystalline blue of the ice. While Antarctic icebergs commonly cited were formed from snow-fresh water falling on the Antarctic plateau or glacier, jade icebergs are formed when mineral-rich seawater freezes to the underside of an ice shelf in layers. These jade icebergs contain layers of pure blue-white ice from the glacier and greener ice from the frozen water. According to scientists, these distinctive jade icebergs are mineral-rich and can help to transport nutrients to areas of the Southern Ocean that are short of iron supply. This discovery is vital as it helps us to know how iron serves as an essential trace nutrient for the growth of the tiny plants located at the base of the Antarctic food web, otherwise known as marine phytoplankton. Number 11. Vanishing ice. Ice loss continues to accelerate every year. In the past 25 years, Antarctica has lost a whopping 3 trillion tons of ice. This was discovered after an international group of 84 researchers analyzed data collected from multiple satellite surveys of the cold region over 25 years, from 1992 to 2017. And they also discovered how it's currently losing ice about 3 times faster than it did until 2012. What could be the implications of this discovery on the Antarctica region and to the world generally? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Since 2012, Antarctica has continued to lose more than 241 billion tons of ice each year. Total ice loss during the period in the study contributed to a sea level rise of about 0.3 inches, of which about 0.1 inches occurred between 2012 and 2017. Although it has been previously claimed that climate change would not affect the massive ice sheets in Antarctica, new findings reveal that the ice cover of the continent may not be resistant to global warming as once thought. The researchers indicated that if all of Antarctica's ice could melt, the resulting water would tend to elevate sea levels by about 190 feet. They arrived at the data by taking 3 types of satellite measurements. Some satellites gathered evidence about the volume of the Antarctic ice, another tracked the speed of glacial flow into the ocean, and the last one calculated the gravity of land masses around the planet and the weight of the entire ice sheets. Putting the 3 trillion tons of ice loss into perspective, the iceberg that broke off from the Larsen C ice shelf in 2017 weighed over 1 trillion tons and was roughly the size of Delaware. Also, collapsing ice shelves contribute to the greatest change in annual ice loss in the Antarctic Peninsula. Number 10. Remains of a massive asteroid. Scientists just discovered that a huge mysterious anomaly might be lurking beneath Wilkes Land, the frozen wasteland of an area 151 miles across, with a minimum depth of about 2,700 feet. The anomaly is believed to be the remains of a massive asteroid twice the size of the Chicxulub space rock that sent the dinosaurs into extinction. If true, then the asteroid might have caused the Permian-Triassic extinction event that killed over 96% of sea creatures and up to 70% of land-living vertebrate organisms. The discovery was first made in 2006 when NASA satellites caught what appeared like a huge object in the middle of a 300-mile-wide crater. However, the assumption that the anomaly was an impact that killed the dinosaurs was ruled out by Ralph von Friese, a professor of geological sciences at Ohio State University, when he discovered the killer crater. According to him, the Wilkes Land impact is way bigger. Another theory, however, indicated that the object might actually be a massive UFO base. According to Secure Team 10, a UFO hunting crew, the Nazis built secret bases in Antarctica during World War II to be used by flying saucers. We might say that the UFO hunting crew is right considering recent discoveries of various entrances in the side of mountains with a saucer shape. At the same time, we are left with questions about how possible it is to enter the entrances without an aircraft, or better still, a spaceship. This mystery remains unsolved till today. Number 9. A lake buried in the ice. Here's another mystery that lurks in the deepest parts of Antarctica. A 25-member expedition team explored the subglacial Lake Mercer only to discover a buried lake covering an area of about 54 square miles under the ice sheet. Could it mean the lake might support a much more advanced life form? It's possible because signs of a similar buried lake of liquid salt water were found on the planet Mars by the Mars Express spacecraft of the European Space Agency. According to John Priskew, a professor of polar ecology at the University of Montana that led the expedition to the ice, water samples collected from Lake Mercer contained approximately 10,000 bacterial cells per millimeter. This is just about 1% of the 1 million microbial cells per millimeter, which is typical of the open ocean, but very high for a sunless body of water buried deep beneath an Antarctic glacier. He concluded that the high presence of bacterial cells in the buried lake indicates its ability to support higher life forms such as microscopic animals like tardigrades. The team had used drills and hot water to open a borehole from their camp on the West Atlantic ice sheet, which is about 370 miles from the South Pole, to the buried lake of liquid water. The team also used a specialized, remotely operated underwater vehicle and several cameras to capture images and video of the floor of the buried lake. It turned out there are numerous buried lakes in Antarctica, making the team conclude that they probably form a unique ecosystem of unique water. Number 8. Factorian Deep. The Factorian Deep, which sits at a depth of about 24,000 feet below sub-zero water, or the height of 17 Empire State Buildings stacked together, is the new deepest point in Antarctica's Southern Ocean. Until recently, researchers had no idea how it fits together. The Factorian Deep was discovered in 2019 by Victor Vescovo, an American explorer and entrepreneur. He was on an expedition to map the deepest points of the 5 oceans in the world. Vescovo first piloted a submersible named Limiting Factor, from which the Factorian Deep derived its name, to the bottom of the South Sandwich Trench of the Atlantic Ocean. The trench crosses the 60th parallel south, the point where he uncovered the Southern Ocean's new deepest point. Since its discovery, the Factorian Deep has been included in a new map of the undersea mountains, canyons, and plateaus of the Southern Ocean. The International Bathymetric Chart of the Southern Ocean, IBCSO, and the Nippon Foundation GEBCO Seabed 2030 project are on a mission to map the entire global seafloor by 2030. The map draws from more than 1,200 sonar datasets. IBCSO had encouraged all ships passing through the Southern Ocean to turn on their sonars to contribute data to the project. This is because the sea bottom chart covers over 18.5 million square miles of seafloor. After mapping the entire global seafloor, biological researchers would be able to pinpoint the locations of undersea mountains. Undersea mountains, known as seamounts, have been the hotspots of undersea biodiversity or marine life for ages. Number 7. 1 million-year-old DNA. Lurking beneath the Scotia Sea's seafloor near Antarctica are DNA fragments from ancient microorganisms. Unknown to researchers, some of the fragments are roughly 1 million years old. Scientists believe the fragments would help them understand organisms that once lived in the ocean and their time spans. At the same time, they could also help scientists understand the future impact of climate change on Antarctica, considering that it's one of the Earth's most vulnerable regions to climate change. The samples of the DNA remain the oldest authenticated DNA to be discovered, beating the record of the previous oldest DNA, which was 650,000 years old. This 1 million-year-old DNA, dubbed sedimentary ancient DNA or SEDA DNA, comes from eukaryotes. Eukaryotes are organisms whose cells contain a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. The team also discovered diatoms or single-celled organisms which date back 540,000 years. It was noted that around 14,500 years ago, the Earth was warming naturally such that waters became warmer and sea levels rose significantly, thus contributing to the rapid growth of ocean diatoms. Scientists believe varieties of tiny diatoms still exist in our oceans and form the base of the food chain there. Scientists are making steady efforts to improve the process of removing ancient DNA fragments from the ground and eliminate the noise and interference created by modern DNA. Number 6. Millions of fish nests. Orton Purser of the Alfred Wegener Institute, together with his graduate student Lillian Boehringer, was on board a German icebreaker in Antarctica to keep watch for whales on a live video when Lillian saw fish nests pockmarking the sea floor. As the ocean floor observation and bathymetry system camera was moving across the sea floor, Lillian could see that the fish nests were everywhere. The nests were in the form of modest bowls and suspected to be carved by notothenioid icefish, which are native to the chilly southern oceans. The notothenioid icefish are the only vertebrates with no iota of hemoglobin in their blood. This is why they are regarded as white-blooded. The team would later pass the site again and towed the camera at a much shallower depth to get a clearer view of the colony. This is not the first time icefish nests have been found. However, the most ever seen before was around 40 nests. It came to their surprise that the nesting site has an estimated 60 million nests, something that has never been seen before. A significant number of the nests were attended by at least one adult fish, which keeps watching over an average of 1,700 eggs. Going further with the exploration, the team found microscopic zooplankton near the surface, where the young icefish swim to feast on the floating buffet after hatching and then return to the seafloor to breed. Efforts are being made to make the colony a marine protected area after it has become an integral part of a local ecosystem. Number 5. Dead bodies. You might be surprised to see that dead bodies have been found in Antarctica. Scientists exploring the region undertake a huge risk when traveling to the region. Some of them ended up perishing during their mission and their bodies were never recovered. The BBC projects that hundreds of frozen corpses might be trapped beneath Antarctic's snow and ice layers. In 1912, British explorer Robert Falcon Scott and his four-man team were trapped by a blizzard in their tent and died of exposure and starvation while returning from the South Pole. While the bodies of Scott and 2 other members of the team were recovered a few months after their deaths, the 2 others have never been found. A more recent death that was recorded in the region is that of British adventurer Henry Worsley, who died of organ failure following an airlift from the continent in 2016. And apart from natural deaths and deaths occasioned by accidents, there are also instances of murder cases in Antarctica. Though unconfirmed, there was a report of how a Russian scientist murdered a colleague with an axe in 1959 after he lost a chess match. It was alleged that chess was swiftly banned in the region following the incident. Interestingly, it's much safer to visit the continent in modern times thanks to technological advancements and other precautions. Modern-day explorers have also learned from the missteps of past scientists that caused their disappearances. Number 4. Sea pigs. Pigs live in the sea. Well, this is another highlight of the Antarctic expedition that is a source of a nightmare to many. Considered the ugliest creatures beneath the waves, the sea pigs, known as the scotoplanes, are the slugs of the sea, living among other deep-sea creatures such as coral and clams. Their appearance differs from one another depending on the ocean in which you spot them. But one thing is certain, sea pigs are scary. No wonder their images have been found in different videos of the amazing and weird creatures in the world. Can you see the specimen of a sea pig? You'd notice it looks like a water balloon that is filled with some intestines and reproductive organs. Merely looking at the creature will give you a faint idea of where the sea pig got its name from. The sea pig was seen marching around the muddy seafloor at around 660 meters deep on the Ross Sea shelf. It uses a ring of tentacles around its mouth to pick up and eat detritus from the sea floor. Becky Totten-Minzoni, a paleoclimatologist at the University of Alabama exploring the Antarctica region, once saved a sea pig from a muddy path inside the tube of a device called a multicorer. He had initially collected and stored some mud samples in a refrigerator on his ship for further study. He was so shocked to find the sea pig alive but stuck within the multicorer's tube. Number 3. Gamburtsev Mountain Range. Antarctica is not just home to strange creatures, it also features massive and mysterious mountain ranges. The Gamburtsev Mountains are hidden below a 2,000 to 4,000 meter thick ice sheet. They stretch for 1,200 kilometers and rise to 3,000 meters. They were named after Soviet geophysicist Grigory A. Gamburtsev after they were discovered by Russian scientists in 1958. Russian explorers had recorded unusual gravity fluctuations from beneath the ice when they discovered the Gamburtsev Mountains. Recently, an international team of geophysicists flew over the mountains using radar to peer beneath the ice. The radar revealed the physical features of the mountains. They also took the magnetic and gravity readings to delve deeply into the crust. It was discovered that the Gamburtsev Mountains were probably formed about 1.1 to 1.8 billion years ago, when East Antarctica was assembling from smaller pieces. At this point, the range eroded, though about a 20-mile deep root remained in the underlying mantle. Then the heat from Earth's interior warmed the material in the root, causing the material to expand and float higher in the mantle. The result is that the mountains began to rise again about 100 million years ago, at the time when the Indian continent broke away from Antarctica and migrated to its present location in the north. Then the Antarctic ice sheet began to form about 34 million years ago. All this while the whole mountain range has been encased in ice and preserved in a deep freeze. However, the reason why Gamburtsev still exists is a theory yet to be understood by scientists. Number 2. Mount Erebus. Despite the freezing conditions of Antarctica, it is still home to a number of volcanoes. Intriguing, right? There are 4 volcanoes on Ross Island. However, of all of these volcanoes, only Mount Erebus is active, and it has increased in volcanic activity in the last 30 years. Mount Erebus is the largest active volcano in Antarctica. It was discovered in 1841 by an expedition led by Sir James Clark Ross, who named the volcano after his ship Erebus. This volcano has an outer crater that is about 650 meters wide, forming a distinct ring at approximately 3,200 meters of elevation. It has been active since 1972. One of the unique things about Mount Erebus is the discovery of layers of ice between its rock layers. This means the eruptions that occurred did not completely melt through the glacial ice. Mount Erebus is situated in a remote location, and the weather conditions there are dangerous, making it difficult for scientists to visit the place. However, scientists managed to climb the volcano by hiking through snow, rocks, and glaciers to get to the peak in 2013. They discovered living organisms in the volcano's heat and a number of ice caves inhabited by some fascinating creatures considered the most unique in the world. Scientists are still observing the Mount Erebus volcano through the Mount Erebus Volcano Observatory and field campaigns to discover signs of extreme life forms. Near the volcano, about 40 kilometers away, is the largest Antarctic settlement, McMurdo Station, which the United States operates. The stratovolcano of Mount Erebus rises 3,749 meters above sea level, and its ice tongue stretches out to the south into McMurdo Sound. Number 1. Hidden earthquakes. Scientists have discovered dozens of hidden earthquakes buried under Antarctica's ice. It was previously thought that the weight of the massive ice sheets in Antarctica had prevented seismic activity in the continent. However, recent research indicates that the continent also has its fair share of quakes, only that they are fewer when compared to other continents. In 2009, Amanda Luff, an assistant professor in the Department of Biodiversity, Earth and Environmental Science at Drexel University in Pennsylvania, and her fellow researchers set up an array of sensors around the continent, including remote locations where it had been believed there had never been seismic activity. To their utmost surprise, the sensors detected 27 small earthquakes that ranged from magnitude 2.1 to 3.9. These quakes were previously not discovered, indicating that they initially needed the right instrument to record the events in the past. The new discovery has placed East Antarctica in a similar category to other cratons with rift systems, a type of system that stresses the Earth while pulling continents apart. Cratons are large, stable pieces of rock on the Earth's crust underlying continents. The rift of the East Antarctic Craton runs through the region known as the Gamburtsev subglacial mountains. Though about 100 million years old, East Antarctica's rift continues to move very slowly. Which of these discoveries left you frozen for a sec? Let us know in the comments.